Tonight, 2 people killed in wild storms along Australia's east coast, and there's more on the way. Shoppers get in early, hunting for a bargain in the Boxing Day sales.
Oh, that's close, Lydia, that's close. Oh, gee.
Drama in the harbour, a near miss early in the Sydney to Hobart as the big boats jostled for the best spot. And Australia in a solid position after a rain-affected day 1 at the Boxing Day test. Good evening, Lydia Feng with a national edition of ABC News. Extreme weather lashing Australia's east coast this Christmas break has turned deadly, with at least 2 people killed and grave fears for 2 more. The severe storms caused flash flooding and tore roofs of homes, and it's not over yet, with more fierce storms forecast.
A ferocious storm hit the Gold Coast just after 9 o'clock.
Whoa.
The sheer force of the wind tearing huge trees from the ground and splintering others like matchsticks.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. From a balcony in Surfers Paradise, it looked like a cyclone. For those sheltering in tents,
it's horrendous here.
It was a terrifying experience. Fallen trees leaving a mangled mess.
We're lucky to be alive.
A 59-year-old woman was killed on the Gold Coast when a tree hit the car she was in.
Absolutely tragic set of circumstances.
The storm we saw last night was unprecedented.
250,000 lightning strikes lit up the night sky. Almost 900 power lines were severed, cutting electricity to more than 120,000 properties across the region.
They've never before seen concrete power poles taken down by a storm.
Boxing Day revealed the extent of the damage. Houses smashed to pieces, roads blocked.
We were just devastated. Like this morning when we got up, we could see all the damage.
This crane buckled under the force of the wind. Theme parks were closed for repairs. Gold Coast residents are calling this the worst storm in decades. So powerful, it's ripped the roof clean off this family's home. There's plasterboard everywhere, and wait till you see where it ended up. It's been sent cartwheeling and on top of their neighbour's roof across the road. Jeff and Helen Nielsen felt their house shudder as the roof landed, blocking their windows, but not causing too much damage.
It's collected the ground there and then it's obviously softened its landings.
I just take life as it comes.
The wind speed is up to Category 2 cyclone, so it's pretty serious.
Wild storms also battered Charleville, 800 kilometres west of the Gold Coast. The Weather Bureau says there could be more to come.
There's still potentially going to be some quite strong, severe thunderstorm activity around southeast Queensland over the next day or so.
In Victoria, a man died after being hit by a tree in the state's east on Boxing Day morning. A severe storm swept through. Heavy falls triggered flash flooding in parts of South Gippsland, with streets and businesses inundated. Emergency services responded to more than 300 calls for help. The rain creating delays for the Boxing Day test as clouds closed in over the MCG. Violent storms also hit parts of New South Wales, with heavy rains swamping the south coast. Campers at a Kiama holiday park had a dramatic end to their Christmas. This father carried his children to safety as the water rose around their caravan.
Got the kids in the car and got them safe. Tried to grab a few things, electronics and all the important stuff.
I was just scared, really scared.
Across the country, many are hoping for a gentler start to the new year. Mackenzie Colohan, ABC News, Gold Coast.
Wild weather is continuing across much of the east coast tonight. We had reporters in Brisbane and Sydney for the latest. First to Emma, a search is underway north of the Sunshine Coast.
3 women aged in their 40s were in a large drain in Gympie, which is a town north of the Sunshine Coast, when the area was inundated with water. Now, this happened at around 3:30 this afternoon, and it's believed the women were washed from that drain into the Mary River. Now, one of the women has managed to get out and is being taken care of by ambulance crews, but a search is underway for 2 women who are still missing, and that search involves 6 different rescue crews from the State Emergency Service and the Queensland Fire and Rescue Service, including swift water rescue boats. So it's a very worrying development as this weather emergency continues, particularly in this part of southeast Queensland.
And Nabil Al-Nashar is in Sydney. Nabil, what's in store for New South Wales tonight?
Well, Lydia, it may seem calm around me right now, but that might just be the calm before the storm. The Bureau of Meteorology says severe thunderstorms are likely this evening, especially ones causing damaging winds, a heavy rainfall that might lead to flash flooding and large hailstones over the next several hours. In fact, they already have caused some damage, according to the New South Wales State Emergency Service. More than 50 properties have been damaged in the Hunter region by what's been described as giant hail from a superstorm cell. Now, these storms are forming and dissipating or moving away very quickly, but others just like them have been forecast for Lismore, Grafton, Sydney, Wollongong, Nowra, Batemans Bay and Goulburn. Some areas near the capital have seen up to 57 millimetres of rainfall under just 1 hour. So in summary, we're looking at several severe thunderstorms accompanied by large hailstones and heavy rainfall that might lead to flash flooding, with warnings now issued for much of the East Coast.
Emma Pollard and Nabil Al-Nashar reporting there. Bargain-hungry shoppers have flocked to stores around the country, some rising before dawn to try to net a good deal. Retail groups say Boxing Day spending is up year on year after months of consumers tightening their belts.
Around the country, people were snapped out of food comas by the early alarm.
We got here at 4:30.
I got up at 5. Yeah, 5:20. I picked her up at 5:30.
It was so worth it. So worth it, I'd do it again.
I normally come here early, about 6 in the morning, and try and snap up some bargains.
After a day of gifting others, it was time for hordes of early risers to look after themselves.
A kettle and a toaster and maybe some clothes.
I'm looking for more clothes because I already got heaps of clothes, but I want more.
Robo vacuum cleaners have been flying out the doors this year.
Others weren't there by choice.
I'm waiting for my girlfriend's shopping at Lulu.
At what time did you have to get up?
I haven't slept yet.
It's all about her. I'm just a courier. I just get to freight it back to the car park.
150,000 were expected at the nation's largest shopping centre in Melbourne for an annual tradition, still projected to attract millions despite the enduring cost of living crisis.
I think people are really starting to struggle with interest rates being so high, and you know, they're not necessarily buying, but they're more browsing.
People still got to live and enjoy themselves, so hopefully they'll find a good bargain and they still have money to eat.
The cost of living has certainly affected retail and retail confidence.
Retail groups say Australians were keen to make the most of bargains after a long period pinching their pennies. About $24 billion will be spent nationwide in the post-Christmas period to January 15, a 1.6% increase on last year. East Coast states are the biggest spenders, with $7.6 billion dropped in New South Wales alone. It's relief for many retailers.
We're looking at the RBA to see what their next move is, and that will have a profound impact on sales predictions for next year.
Wary of a difficult road ahead. Jessie Thompson, ABC News.
Australia is in a solid position at stumps after a rain-affected opening day of the boxing test at the MCG. It was hard work for the Australian batters as Pakistan produced an improved bowling performance in front of a crowd of more than 60,000.
The fans were out in force for one of the highlights on the sporting calendar, with their loyalties tested.
My children are all supporting Pakistan. I'm Australian. I'm, supporting Australia. I'm sorry.
Probably going to have to leave early. Got to go to the beach today, though.
Others were in the mood to party.
We've got our beautiful Barbie here with us today. We're looking forward to a great day, so yeah, can't wait.
Looking for a strong response after being thrashed in the first test, Pakistan won the toss and opted to bowl.
Just having looked at the MCG for the past 3 years, the bowling first side has done well, so there's been a bit of weather around, so we just like to avail every opportunity we can do with the ball.
The first of those opportunities was missed with David Warner on 2.
That's as pretty well as simple as it gets.
Banned from putting a dove sticker on his bat by the game's governing body, Usman Khawaja had the names of his children on his shoes instead and remained on the front foot.
Probably the shot of the morning. In fact, I'll say it is.
With lunch looming, Warner was tempted by a tasty offering.
He has picked him up. David Warner goes after the wicket just prior to lunch. Someone gets his wicket, he so deserves.
The tourists struck again early in the second session with Khawaja falling for 42.
They have their breakthrough. Hassan Ali.
With the natural light fading, Marnus Labuschagne faced a testing spell from Shaheen Afridi.
He's got those knees pumping, he's got the eyes going, he's staring at Labuschagne. There you go.
How is the light, mate? It's got very dark in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's dark. Let's just leave it at that.
Rain stopped play for almost 3 hours, and when the action resumed, Pakistan's probing bowling resulted in the key wicket of Steve Smith.
A mark on the sticker.
The smallest of edges does for Steve Smith.
Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
It's been a dramatic start to the Sydney to Hobart yacht race with a near miss between two supermaxi yachts. That's unlikely to be the end of the tensions for sailors, with storms predicted as they head for Hobart.
A clear start, but the drama of this year's Sydney to Hobart race was soon to follow.
Some yelling. Oh, that's close, Whitty, that's close.
SHK Scallywag coming within metres of Andu Comanche, which protested the move. Comanche is the record holder, the reigning winner, and Line Honour's favourite this year.
We've got nothing to prove. We did that last year, but everything to lose.
On the water and on the foreshore, onlookers vied for a slice of the action.
I'm just excited to see all the commotion.
And I love water and boats and grass.
I have a sailing boat in France, in Nice, near the Mediterranean Sea, and I know this famous race.
Light winds have dashed hopes of a new record.
3 or 4 days ago, it was looking very likely that there was going to be a good chance of breaking it. Now, we would say it's a little more than a glimmer of hope.
Those lighter winds will turn ferocious and unpredictable as the yachts travel south.
Those winds are going to be quite strong. They're going to come from any direction.
Erratic winds on the south coast could be a particular challenge for the 4 supermaxis, which take longer to reset their sails. Smaller boats could be more nimble through the storms, but poor visibility and even hail are no one's friend on the ocean.
Nothing ever good comes from a black cloud. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, especially in a boat race.
It's a sort of half-hour mission to rig the boat for whatever you get. So these volatile conditions are really testing for the big boats.
Unpredictable weather, meaning this year's race could test even the most experienced sailors. Sean Turek-Goodwin, ABC News, Sydney.
A teenage boy has had a lucky escape after being bitten by a shark on Christmas Day on the New South Wales mid-north coast. The young surfer says the fin on his surfboard might have saved his leg.
16-year-old Julian McClellan was back at his local beach today. The drama of his brush with a juvenile white shark was still sinking in.
I just feel something grab me. I look to the right, I just see a massive fin coming out of the water and like its body of a shark.
Julian was bitten on the upper thigh and suffered a series of puncture wounds.
I just see it, I start paddling in. I have no clue if I have a leg still.
His mate, Alex Tobin, was in the water with him at the time.
I just seen a giant splash, came out of nowhere. It's crazy.
Alex says he saw a pool of blood in the water.
I ran to shore, grabbed my shirt so he can wrap around his leg to stop the bleeding.
Alex alerted nearby beachgoers. Another mate then drove Julian to hospital. The young surfer says the fin on his surfboard might have saved his leg.
When it grabbed me, I just froze, and then it let go because it had the fin in its mouth. If I didn't have the fin on the surfboard, it probably would have taken my leg.
Julian's mother says she's grateful to her son's friends for their quick thinking.
Oh, absolutely prompt and efficient and problem-solving beautifully. Like they did what they needed to do. They didn't freak out. They helped their mate. That's what true friends are.
Julian says he'll get back in the water, but not for a while. He's advising others not to surf or swim alone.
Just make sure you're with someone, like make sure there's someone at least in the water. Like if I didn't have anyone with me, I could have been a lot worse.
In the meantime, this young surfer is counting his Christmas blessings. Emma Siossian, ABC News, Old Bar.
Jailed Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny has been moved to a penal colony in an Arctic region of northern Russia. He had been missing for 3 weeks, with many fearing he'd met the same fate as many of Vladimir Putin's enemies. The prison he's being held at is ominously known as the Polar Wolf Colony. Most of its prisoners have committed the most serious crimes. It's nearly 2,000 kilometres northeast of Moscow. It's considered the toughest prison in Russia and is known for its severe winters. Mr. Navalny's lawyer managed to see him on Monday.
He is well. Especially given the fact that he was transferred for 3 weeks to this place. So this is the information I have right now. Before he was in a strict regime colony, and now he is in a special regime colony, which is more harsh. Everything is different there. I mean, he will have less phone calls, less meetings with relatives, less parcels he can receive. But the thing is that even before, when he was in this lighter version of colony, he didn't have already any phone calls, any meetings, and any parcels. So actually, the thing is that there is no law in Russia that is applied to Alexei. They always create for him special conditions, and they don't have anything to do with law. So we don't have any illusions. We know for sure that in this new colony, his conditions would be even worse than they were before. But the thing is that this colony is very distant. It is very difficult to access it. And for lawyers, it will be very, very difficult to go there and to see Alexei.
There are deepening concerns tonight that the Israel-Gaza conflict could spill across the Middle East after an attack on an American airbase from Iran-aligned militants. The United States says it's now launched retaliatory airstrikes into Iraq, killing a number of militants in response. It comes after one of the deadliest days for civilians in Gaza, with Israel's Prime Minister defying growing global calls for a ceasefire.
Arriving in northern Gaza, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war is far from over. It's his second trip to the Gaza Strip since the October 7 terror attack. The Israeli leader has been facing pressure from the United States to scale back military operations here. But he's told members of his party and his troops that he's determined to press ahead. He says this will be a long battle and it isn't close to finished. But he's fighting a war on the home front too. Relatives of the hostages heckled and booed the Prime Minister during his speech in Parliament. Now, 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 they shouted. We don't have time.
We won't succeed at releasing all the hostages without military pressure, operational pressure, political pressure. And that is why there is one thing that we will not do. We will not stop fighting.
That's not the speech Gazans want to hear after one of the deadliest nights in the 11-week-old battle. This family finally gets medical help. It hurts here, Mama, this little girl says, pointing to her pain. Their home was destroyed like so many others. Hamas has continued to fire rockets from Gaza into Israel. It's also released a video it says shows fighting with Israeli troops it claims are conducting an operation on a building in northern Gaza. As Israel mourns its soldiers killed in battle, an ambitious Egyptian proposal to end this bitter war has been given a cool reception by Hamas and Israel, but it hasn't been rejected yet. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
War ravaging Gaza and Ukraine have been the focus of many key Christmas messages and services across the Northern Hemisphere. The Pope used his address to decry the growing number of civilians being killed in the Gaza Strip. While in Ukraine, Orthodox Christians embraced a major change in protest of Russia's invasion.
Coming together for the first time in December. Ukrainians, who are largely Orthodox Christian, are used to celebrating Christmas on January 7. It's another shift away from Russian influence, and many are embracing the change.
Finally, there is a day in Ukraine which my husband and I can spend together in the cathedral.
It's an important moment of spiritual unity in this difficult time of war.
With Christmas celebrations cancelled in Bethlehem because of the Israel-Gaza war, it was a more subdued and sombre affair. The faithful coming out for Mass, congregating at the site they believe Christ was born. The war in Gaza also forefront at the Vatican as Pope Francis delivered his Christmas message.
I plead for an end to the military operations with their appalling harvest of innocent civilian victims.
The pontiff making an impassioned plea for peace.
These children, whose childhood is devastated by war, are the little Jesuses of today. To say yes to the Prince of Peace then means saying no to war.
As millions attended religious events around the globe, the royal family arrived for a morning church service at Sandringham. King Charles continuing a legacy left by his late mother, the Queen. While in Berlin, dozens braved the winter weather for a Christmas Day dip, donning festive attire for a tradition dating back 40 years.
Wonderful, but of course 5 degrees too warm. A bit of ice would be nice.
A Christmas marked around the world with hope for peace ever present. Sammy Clare, ABC News.
Crowds have flocked to cinemas across the country today to catch the first glimpses of the movies premiering on Boxing Day. The cinema industry has defied predictions about its downfall, with the Australian box office pulling in almost $1 billion this year. Helena Burke has more.
Well, last year we saw a movie on Boxing Day with the kids, so we thought we'll do that every year.
There's a communal experience when everyone comes together. The big screen, it's loud, you feel it. It's just a good time.
Bigger screen and you get more popcorn. Yeah, and better popcorn.
Nearly 1 million people spent their Boxing Day in cinemas across the country. The revamped IMAX in Sydney reopened in October and was almost at capacity.
I'm the King of Atlantis.
It's part of a broader comeback for the cinema industry.
We're expecting about 1,500 customers today, so all our sessions are almost sold out.
It's a stark contrast from the predictions about cinemas going bust due to the rise of streaming services and COVID lockdowns.
The industry is growing every year, which is really encouraging. You can watch live football at home, yet look how many people, millions of people go and pay to go to the stadium to watch a live game. Cinema's exactly the same.
Large cinema chains are performing better than expected given the popularity of streaming services, but that's not the case for everyone in the big screen game. Earlier this year, Melbourne's Luna Drive-In shut down. There's now barely any outdoor cinemas open year-round. Smaller cinema owners like Kirsten and Adam are still finding their feet after the pandemic.
COVID's just sort of set everything back by about 7 years.
The couple have owned the historic cinema at Mount Victoria in the New South Wales Blue Mountains for 10 years now.
We had a bit of a spike with a couple of big films like Barbie and Oppenheimer in the middle of the year, but overall it's been slowly building.
We are still really passionate about it. We do really love it, and that's why we do what we do.
Cinemas big and small hoping to keep the momentum going into 2024. Helena Burke, ABC News.
Australian summers often involve bushfires, floods and cyclones, and for families it can be hard to know how to help children cope. Experts say kids are vulnerable to the emotional impacts of natural disasters, and one of the best ways to help build resilience is to listen and talk to them.
With a hot summer forecast and surrounded by the bushland of the Blue Mountains, the weather and climate is front of mind at Blaxland Preschool.
What do you know about your bushfire plan?
Over near the fridge.
Children do pick up a lot of what's happening around them. They might be seeing things on the news, they're hearing the conversations.
The Black Summer fires are still fresh in the minds of the Blaxland community.
It was very confronting for a lot of families. Everybody was very hyper aware, so children would have been exposed to a lot of that.
To help children feel assured, teachers say it's important to maintain relationships and listen to their ideas.
So when they do bring things up, we can respond to their questions and to their concerns, make sure that they feel safe.
Michelle Roberts is a child psychologist specialising in child and adolescent trauma.
You can have the open conversations, which was the first obvious thing.
But it was also important to factor in a child's developmental level.
Going down the pathway in your own mind, having your plan, all of those sorts of things actually helps you make good decisions in the heat of the moment.
To better support and prepare children for the emergency season, ABC Kids Early Education has launched the Helping Hands Disaster Resilience Early Education Toolkit.
And by particularly over the last 5 years, like if you think of where our preschoolers are up to now, they've lived through big bushfires and pandemic times and big floods, severe storms, etc.
The free curriculum planning resource was created in partnership with the Australian Institute for Disaster Resilience and includes material from the Red Cross, Emerging Minds and the ABC.
So what this toolkit helps to do is to put everything under one easily accessible umbrella.
For now, the children at Blaxland Preschool continue to work on their bushfire plans to stay bushfire ready. Nathan Morris, ABC News.
The Illawarra Hawks NBL resurgence continues under interim coach Justin Tatum with a thrilling Christmas Day comeback win against the Kings in Sydney. The Hawks fought back from an 18-point deficit against the reigning back-to-back champions to win 94 points to 90. The Kings' Jaylene Adams top scored with 22 points. Sam Froling led for Illawarra with 20 points and 8 rebounds. Tyler Harvey also impressed for the Hawks with 15 points. The Hawks' third win in 4 games ends an 8-game losing streak against Sydney and keeps their play-in hopes alive.
It's a tough place to play. Every single game we play against Sydney is a battle, but to come in here, we had a good turnout in the crowd to win that game for them, especially on Christmas. I mean, we're all sacrificing a lot to play on today. Everybody, of course, wants to be with their families, but we get to play the game that we love.
Poland's Hubert Hurkacz is hoping to use his first visit to Perth as a springboard to Grand Slam success ahead of the United Cup tennis tournament starting Friday. The world number 9 arrived in Australia overnight and had his first look at the Perth Arena court this afternoon. Last year, Hurkacz and world number 1 women's player Iga Swiatek reached the semi-finals of the mixed event. The 26-year-old went on to his most consistent season to date and says he hopes to continue that trend in 2024. And now to the weather for tomorrow. The stormy weather we've seen for the past few days along the east of the country will continue tomorrow, but conditions will be milder. More isolated showers are on the way. On the synoptic chart, troughs and lows will trigger rain and thunderstorms over WA, the Northern Territory, Queensland and eastern Victoria. A high-pressure system will ensure it'll be dry elsewhere. For Queensland tomorrow, it'll be partly cloudy for most of the state with a high chance of showers, most likely in the morning and afternoon. The chance of a severe thunderstorm for the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast. Sunny in the west. Daytime temperatures reaching the low to mid-30s, climbing to 42 in Mount Isa. Brisbane will hit a top of 34 degrees. And for New South Wales and the ACT, scattered showers and thunderstorms across the southeast, dry and sunny for the far west. It'll reach 29 in Sydney, 24 in Canberra. Grey skies over Victoria, showers and storms likely across most of the state, particularly in the southeast. Partly cloudy in the north and west and remaining mostly dry in the western districts. Maximum temperatures between the low to high 20s. 23 degrees for Melbourne. Rainy conditions in Tasmania too, cloudy around the Bass Strait Islands and possible showers elsewhere. Hobart forecast to reach a top of 23 degrees, 27 in Launceston. Warmer conditions in South Australia, partly cloudy and sunny for most of the state. Temperatures ranging from the mid to high 30s in the north. Adelaide is expected to hit 26 degrees. In Western Australia, partly cloudy, 27 along the coast, including Perth. It'll reach a top of 38 further inland. And mostly sunny in Broome for the Northern Territory. A possible storm in Darwin, expected to reach 35 degrees. And that's all from ABC News. Thanks for your company. Enjoy.